Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. This is episode 7 with Amanda Walker. I'm really excited about today's episode because Amanda has been a coach for more than 25 years. She has coached everything from Pee-wee basketball to CrossFit. She's been a precision nutrition coach and now a certified master life coach and NLP practitioner. Today, she spends most of her time helping coaches and other online service-based business owners to get their clients' results faster so that they can make more money. In fact, results have been the bread and butter of her business for decades. And in today's episode, we get really specific on how to generate better results for your clients and how to do so in a way that's different from everyone else in the industry. Definitely stay tuned for the end of the episode because we announce our first ever review winner. So if you are enjoying these shows, please go ahead and leave us a review. Every month we give away a certification to one lucky winner. So be sure to stay tuned till the end of the episode to see if your review was the one picked to win this month's free course from Transformation Academy. Without further ado, please welcome the one and only Amanda Walker. All right, Amanda, welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm super excited to have you on today. I think you have so much experience that our audience can benefit from. So thanks so much for being here.
Of course, I'm honored to join you and be a guest.
Yeah, so give us a little bit of background. I know you've been coaching for over 20 years. Paint us a picture of how that sort of evolved over the time and you've been able to create the success that you have today.
I took my first coaching job when I was 15. I coached Pee-wee boys basketball for the local YMCA. And I always joke when I share this story because it was more about herding cats and teaching them, like, keep your hands to yourself. But for me, what it did show me is the power of influence from one human being to another. And it was like the seed that planted of like, whoa, I can use my words and my language and be able to help another human being reach, another level of potential and create results in their life. And so that was the domino that really led my entire life to coaching in some capacity. I mean, formally educated in undergrad in science and grad school in coaching and teaching. So I taught high school for 10 years, in fact. And along there, I was coaching athletics. I became a CrossFit coach. My business roots took up inside of the health and nutrition space. And that's where we really, I entered into that realm having no marketing experience. I never sold anything in my life. I just knew how to study human behavior and to help people get better. And so that's really what I've grown my business off is capitalizing and leveraging the results that clients create, being better at being able to get them results, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And grew my business from scratch to 7 figures plus and pivoted that to really help coaches do the same and lean into their expertise and help them see that business is not a one path direction. In fact, that's probably the fastest way to not being profitable is you try to follow somebody else's formula. And so here I am now. We run a program called The Best Damn Coach. I host a podcast with the same name. And that's my mission is to help coaches be the best damn coach they can be.
I love it. Yeah. So in addition to the Profitable Coach, check out the Best Damn Coach. Yeah. So what I heard you say that really stood out is you were able to become successful as a coach before pivoting and helping coaches to do the same. So walk us through some of the things that you tried when you were first starting out and some of the things that you set aside because they weren't as effective as getting clients.
Yeah. And in the beginning, honestly, I did not know this whole specifically online world of coaching existed. Much of where the reason I had success in the beginning was I noticed one important thing that was happening, and that was when I focused on my clients first and I helped really ask the right questions and got them results, they became a walking billboard for my work. And so I had this light bulb moment of, well, if I just keep serving the people that are with me right now, then they're going to bring more people to me. And so that was really what my business growth came from. And then, of course, I got smart and realized like if I share that outwardly and create, and leverage those results, and I start to share it on social or with client success stories on our blog or on our podcast, then people would hear those stories now from the word, from the voice, from the mouths of the people. And that would bring more like people. And so in the beginning, that, and still to this day, this is what I teach. This is how my business grows. So I guess I want to lean into like the important part of what worked. Along that pathway, though, it's like, well, I want it more. I want faster. Like, give me more and faster and higher profits. And so I started to dabble in more marketing strategies and really studying marketing since I had no background in it. And that's where I think I began to run into hurdles sometimes of like, I'm trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and I am not seeing any ROI from, this specific methodology. And that's where I learned how to pump the brakes and start asking questions around those strategies.
Yeah. And so this heavy emphasis on results, which has been, the pillar of your business, whether you were doing life coaching or business coaching, I want to focus on how it is that you defined results with each client. Is it something that you had predetermined before they were magnetized to you, or that you guys created together? I think that this is the part where a lot of coaches are getting confused when they're first starting, because they're like, I don't know what my result is. I just know I want to help people.
Totally. So, this is an area we work on tremendously, because I'll give a visual. If you and I were hanging out and we were like at a bar and there was a dartboard, and we're like, okay, Kimberly, let's play darts together. And we get to the dartboard and it's just a circle. It's like a blank bulletin board. We would see no point in throwing darts because there isn't any actual clarity on where we're trying to aim or target. There's no incentive. And this is kind of what I think a lot of coaches do. They have a general vicinity. We would know like the direction to probably throw the darts, but if without circles or a bullseye, then what happens as practitioners is we're missing out. For lack of a better, we're leaving profit on the table, actually. And I can explain why that is. And also, we aren't really sure if the work we're doing is getting the client to where we want them to go. And so often coaches have vicinities, but what they don't have is the correct languaging. I'll call them action verbs. They don't have the correct languaging to help them identify a tangible result that the client wants to walk away with. And they're not really sure how to even ask them. So I'll give a great example, because this one comes up in for the majority of clients. They might say, well, I just want to feel more confident in my life. And so if you are somebody that helps a client feel more confident, like that's not enough actually yet. We want to know, okay, for client A, what does more confidence look like in her life? Like if you were to feel more confident, what would you experience differently that you're not experiencing right now? And so the more we ask those great questions, we start to draw in the circles on the dartboard, and we start to actually get a clear bullseye for what they're wanting. And in the beginning, we're just like, I want to help people transform, or they had a really great experience with a coach, or even certifications do a poor job of this, to be honest. This is the opportunity that I think a lot of practitioners miss out on.
Yeah, I have talked about this in a recent Quantum Leap call. That's our group program for brand new coaches. And we were saying how confidence is like a trait. It's not necessarily a result. And the confidence is kind of the vehicle to the result. By feeling more confident, you get to have what? You get to experience what, like you said, that you don't currently have now. But it's not actually a great keyword for your website or a thing to promise someone, because it's not tangible. It's not something they can grab onto.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about some of the like transformations that stand out to you from your previous clients, from before you pivoted and started helping coaches, and I'll talk about those in a second. I want to hear about some of the things that really prove to you like this can work. I'm on the right path. Transformation is possible. People are coachable because we all have those like milestone clients, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of them, and a lot of my work was in the weight loss space. So, I mean, I've had clients lose literally 100 pounds, 50
Yeah.
pounds. I've had clients, you know, go from not being able to walk a mile to literally like being CrossFit ninjas. And those are great. Like those are the external things that,
Yeah.
that really create a different level of quality, a different quality of life. Where I really began to pivot was I love those things, but those are short term results. My real question became like, but where are you going to be a year from now?
Mm-hmm.
The result that matters most to me isn't the one that we actually get necessarily inside the container. It's how do you maintain that outside the container? And so that's where I would say results when I saw my clients a year or two from then actually hold on to those results because we did, some of the identity shifting work that's necessary to like be the person always that has that particular thing. That those are some of my most celebratory, or people that maybe fell off track, but then were able to get back forward momentum based on some of the tools and strategies, that we utilize inside the coaching container.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the things that I would love to know is as you are progressing with your coaching clients, I imagine that you were also investing in your own growth. And so I'd love to hear some of the things that were really helpful for you on your own coaching journey to continue to evolve and become a better coach.
I'm I mean, of course, like it's a shameless plug for what we do, but having a mentor and a coach inside my life has been just a non negotiable for me since being on this journey. I think every coach needs a coach. And that looks differently though. Sometimes it was a one-to-one coach. Sometimes it was a coach leading a group environment, depending upon, I would say, the goal of my business in that season really dictated where I was investing. I've also done, multiple modalities, certifications, of course, education. So I literally set aside when I love profit first. So I kind of follow that model inside my business. But part of another bucket that I set aside is for continuing education or self investment. And so I'm just every month putting aside a chunk so that when I am ready to move into a different thing, then there's always money set aside. And I think it's important to hold that integrity. If I'm asking, and this is an area where I often like coaches to break free because
Mm-hmm.
familiar words are not for someone. Like projections are perceptions. So what we are willing to do as a coach, we have to understand that the people we attract are going to have similar. So if we're not willing to invest, so if I'm a new coach and I'm like struggling, but I'm not willing to invest in myself to break free of that struggle, then we're going to get those similar objections and those similar opportunities for growth and work through. And so I think it's really important that we walk the
Yeah.
talk. And that doesn't have to be all the time. I'm not saying like you have to be investing or you can't have people investing in your services. But I think there's this element of continuing to nurture ourselves to be the highest, in the highest place possible for our clients.
Yeah, totally. And I think that a common misconception is that you have to break the bank to invest, which I just don't think is true. I've seen multiple tiers of business support or mentorship that exist in the coaching industry. And I think that to be able to walk the talk or walk the walk and talk the talk, it requires a level of self-sufficiency and proactivity. So it's like if you're only seeing high ticket coaches coming at you, but right now I'm actually only able to really afford like a mid-tier offer from someone, but I really want to get support, do some research or hire a VA to do some research for you. So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's all part of the thing. Like,
yeah. And I also, this is kind of one of the struggles I have with the industry as a whole is there is an offshoot, I think, of coaches or a belief system is like, how high can I climb on investment? How much can I push the envelope? How much will my people actually pay? That's just not my style in
yeah,
particular. And especially we have to look at where our clients are. I tend to work with emerging coaches in the first few years of business. What I was able to invest at 100K looked very different at a $500,000 in revenue. And so I think there's opportunities. And then sometimes when I was beyond that, I was just like, actually, it's not a priority for me right now because other things, I want to spend money on redoing a website or, those things. So it's important to understand there's a flow and a season.
Yeah, totally. A season for everything. And so one of the things that you mentioned was certifications. I think this is a really hot topic for brand new coaches, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it, but before I share my own.
Yeah, I definitely do not believe that certifications make you an amazing coach. And I don't think, we're in an unregulated industry. That's just the reality of where we're at. And so you have to understand that and know that. And it's kind of like, I one of my big beliefs I had to break through was that the academic side of things outweighed the experience side. So before I even really broke into business, I almost had convinced myself I was going to go back to school to get my PhD in nutrition, essentially. Thank goodness I did not, because that's not even an area. But what I was really unconsciously was just holding on to the belief that I would be more confident, I would be more experienced, I would be more well respected, and therefore I would make more money if I held that level of certification, credentialing, or whatever. They all close, loop together for me. And so often what I do think, especially in the beginning, is we're trying to out certify the imposter syndrome that we experience. In reality, the fastest way for us to become more masterful at coaching is to coach. Right? Like if I'm a parent, I have 2 kids. If I want to be a better parent, it's not go study and read books about parenting. It's to try out the tools I already have in my toolbox. And then I'm going to get feedback that's going to help me make adjustments for future parenting decisions. And coaching is no different than that. So I spend a tremendous time with my clients, helping them to understand, like, okay, what's the certification going to get you? Not that I don't think they're amazing. I do them, but I do them after years of studying and then deciding I see a gap in my skill set, or there's some themes that are happening with clients and I want a great, another modality or something else that I could have in my toolbox to satisfy that gap.
Yeah, that totally resonates. I was talking with a friend who's a new coach just yesterday, and we were chatting about this very thing, because I think that, or my perspective on this is, if you have a target market who needs you to have some sort of like certification on your website, for example, lawyers. I've worked with a past lawyer. Me having a certification was kind of a deal breaker for him. He admitted to me later. And so knowing that if the majority of your target market is going to want that from you, maybe go out and get one, but don't get one simply because you think you need it to be a coach. Exactly what you said, to become a better coach. I think that there's a big misnomer out there that you need to spend $20K in 12 months getting a certification. And until you do that, you cannot coach. It's not true. Yeah. Pros and cons to an unregulated industry, but this one I think is a pro.
Yeah. And I think, even supposedly, the umbrella, I won't say any specific names, but like there's bias in all the certifications. And so it's important to unpack what certifications make sense for you, but more importantly, who do you want to be as a coach? And just to plug my own verbiage, like what's going to make you the best damn coach for the people that you serve. And it's important to, vet that out and make sure that there's intention and purpose in the outcome.
Yeah. At Transformation Academy, we offer a variety of different certifications, but I look at them more as training. If you come in, you're like, I really want to be a great coach in this particular niche or field, and I don't currently have the resources to study, this is a great opportunity to study that particular thing, whether that's spirituality or mindset or whatever. But like you said, it's not something that should be holding you back by any means.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. Beautiful. So one of the things I found is that in the beginning, clarity is one of the biggest things that are holding coaches back, not just on what we already talked about in terms of results that they get for people, but literally like, do I do one-on-one? Do I do a group program? Should I be posting here, or here online? Like there's a lot of information. So I'm curious how you help your clients, or one of the ways in which you help your clients to feel clearer so that they actually start taking clear action.
Yeah. One of the main beliefs I have that bring clarity is that having a unique framework that sets you apart from people in your niche is extremely powerful. And where I find clients struggle to that point is they have all these great ideas and they've probably been influenced through certifications or through a mentor, right? And sometimes in the beginning we're like, okay, we saw it done this way, or my certification taught me this thing, so I'm going to do it just like the certification. And unfortunately what that does is it makes you like everybody else. And so we teach inside our framework builder lab, like how to unpack that. How do I take all the ideas in my head and begin to distill it down into a step-by-step process that helps me create a clear, concise way that I'm going to share and curate the results I want with my client. And what this does often is it brings light to actually the container that's most conducive to the results that we're going to curate. Which is where people are like, do I, like you said, one-to-one group coaching for how long? If you want your client to have, 25 different results, probably this is not a 30-day container, right?
Yeah.
Do you really want
or
your
a
client
free challenge?
Yeah, or a free challenge, 25 different results. So I think there is, the clarity also comes in just understanding the gap in how we tend to talk about what we do and the way our client needs to be marketed to, which is still to this day one of my greatest struggles, because we're so far along and we're so in it, right? And then we go to market it and we're speaking basically Spanish to English speakers, for lack of a better analogy. Is they're trying to speak English, but we're so far ahead, we're speaking another language to them. And so they don't even know if what we have is right for them, because we're not meeting them where they're at when it comes to marketing. So I also find, one of the things we do for and outside our community is constantly work on the messaging piece and teach coaches how to. I just believe, like, if you're a great coach, you're actually absolutely amazing at marketing, because great coaches know the exact pain points and the exact results they're creating for their clients. And this is actually where we need to start. And then every other part, the coaching piece, but also the business building piece, becomes really simple because we can speak and we know our ideal client so well.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite ways to get that information? Like to do your market research and start getting in front of the right people to have these conversations?
Yeah, easiest way is to go back to your old clients. Or if you don't have old clients yet and you're just starting out, you've likely had probably conversations or practiced on clients that were your ideal clients. Is to go back to them and just say, hey, so and so, I am really working on getting more clarity on my message, like in your messaging, in your own words. What are the results that you feel like you got from working with me? And then we get to see how they articulate it. Because a lot of time it's ego driven inside us. But we do all these things. Like, we're amazing. We help them find happiness. We help them stress less. We help them blah, 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 blah. It's all these things. But ultimately, our ideal client is not there yet. They don't care about the plane ride. They just care about the dream island that you're going to take them to at the end of the transformation. And so we have to do a really good job of articulating that.
Yeah. And I think that, we often forget there's probably a part of us that wanted to be a coach in the first place because we were already serving people. Even if we don't have clients, if we're a brand new coach, have never had a client, I realized this is 2015 when I had my aha moment about wanting to do coaching. I was reading You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And I was like, oh, coaching is a thing. This sounds a lot like the conversations I'm already having with friends, where I'm helping them to draw boundaries, to say no, to have more assertive conversations, et cetera. And I was like, you can get paid for that? So I think there's already something that anyone who's listening is really good at helping their friends and family with. So just go ask your friends and family, like, hey, what are some things you think I'm really good at? What are ways in which I've supported you in the past? And then, take note of what their response is.
Yeah. And also, what are the things you're most struggling with? Because we also want a clear language around their pain points, because that's a great way to understand how to build curriculum, how to build out your coaching sessions, and also how to build out your content and marketing.
Yeah. One of our past clients, I was chatting with him this week about his progress, and he was saying that he created a survey. He's kind of pivoting in his niche and feeling a lot more excited about this new direction, working with men. And he created a survey that he's put out to his network of men and asking each of them to pass it on to a friend just so he can get information. And I think that it's really easy for us to just assume no one's going to have time to do that, or no one's going to want to help me out. Everyone's really busy because we feel busy. But actually, people get a lot of joy out of supporting other individuals. And so I think that it's really good to remember times when you've wanted to support and cheer someone on, and assume that people will do the same for you.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. So I know that results are like the bread and butter of your business. And I read that serving the hell out of your clients is kind of like your overarching theme, right? And so I'd love to hear what serving the hell out of them means to you and means to your community.
Yeah. Well, we talk a lot in my community that people ultimately want to be seen and heard, and what they experience from us is a feeling. Like if you think of any service or purchase that you've made, you likely come back because of the feeling that has been created inside of that container. If it's buying a new car, or even being a guest on a podcast, is the feeling does matter. And so I'm constantly asking my clients, like, what kind of feeling do you want your clients to have once they enter into your like ecosystem, into your world? And let that be the paintbrush for which you're mapping out and, creating this beautiful canvas of a business. And so I think that begins the moment people interact with you. So they enter your world through a lead magnet or hearing you on a podcast, is inviting them to go deeper and letting your personality and who you are really just like be woven in through all that. The way you write your copy, like let you shine through the way you write your copy from nurture sequences, the way you communicate on your social media, and let the value always lead. It's my belief, like value goes first, the money does follow. That doesn't mean give away everything for free and be, like completely unaware. However, that does mean that the client experience starts from day one. And then once they energetically commit to being your client, just really asking yourself, like, how would you want to feel in the most perfect world? How would you want to feel? Do you want to, welcome them with a video? Do you want to send them a gift, like throughout the journey? How are you going to monitor progress? How are they going to know they're seen and heard throughout the journey? And what that then leads to is a raving testimonial of your work. And then if you're really great at refining that process, because it looks very different in the beginning than it does when you've served 10 people or 100 people. And there's always work to be done around that. But then you just start to create this network of fans who literally are like, oh, she put out a new offer, I'm in. Or they're telling other people about you. And so that's really my whole idea, is like, serve the heck out of them from the beginning, and everything else kind of falls in place.
Yeah, totally. And I love the idea of creating an experience. Like, people don't have to just opt into your funnel and now get emails from you and then get a pitch for a discovery session. It doesn't have to be so cookie cutter. You can really make it as fun as you want it to be. And if that means, I was talking on a recent group coaching call about the idea of having a physical planner or journal for people who opt into your group programs. You don't have to, but if it feels fun to you to like create this book that can drop ship from Lulu or Amazon KDP to someone's door, do it, because it's going to make you want to talk about the container and the experience so much more than if it was just like all digital, all Zoom calls, like didn't thrill you to create. So
yeah, absolutely.
On that note, I would love to hear some of the things that you have done inside your business over the years that felt really Amanda. They're just unique to you and fun for you to invite people into, and how they've changed as well over the years.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things we ever did is how we launch our mastermind. I'll just kind of give one example. I don't necessarily open up my mastermind to everyone. It's more like a deep soul searching of like who's in my world that I really feel connected to and feel like I could serve this year at the level and the place that they want to go. And
Mm.
so we create like a theme based on that for the year of the mastermind. And then I curate some sort of like private gift. So we didn't launch our mastermind this year because we're working on some other streamlining processes and our
Yeah.
signature program growth. But last year it was, basically become the CEO you can be.
Mm.
And so I had sweatshirts designed and I sent 50 sweatshirts to women that I felt like I could serve. And then inside of them was a card that I had my team created on Canva with a QR code, and that QR
Mm.
code led to a personal video that I had made for those 50 people, just talking about the offer and what my vision was, and it invited them to complete the application if they felt aligned. And what I loved about it was literally people would be like, "Hey, I'm not going to join, but like, do I send you back the sweatshirt?" And I was like, no, like it's a gift. Like it's a gift. It's because
Yeah.
I saw something in you. And
Yeah.
even though it might be a no for you right now, what I want you to know is like I see this in you and I see where you're going. And those people like also came into other offers, right? Are still
Yeah.
in my world. And so I love doing things that feel very high touch and feel like people are really seen and heard. And from that, we created like an amazing community. I've done boxes like that before. But yeah, any little things. I do love to give in the beginning of the
Yeah.
journey in some way
Uh,
along the way. Yeah.
Gifts is one of my love languages too. And one of the things that I'm most known for in the Bold Life movement, which is my coaching business and my original baby, is painting things for people who have been inspirers or expanders for me. And I'll like hand paint something that's relevant to a book they wrote or an event that they put on, something like that, and go to a book signing and give it to them and just say, you inspired me and you changed my life and this is a gift for you.
I
And
love it.
more than not, it gets my foot in the door for a deeper connection. Even though that's not the intention, it's purely genuine. It stands out. It's novel. People like novelty. They're starved for novelty. So whether
Yeah.
it's a mentor that you want to work with, a person that you want to interview for a podcast, or it's a client that you want to bring into your network, doing something novel and creative is not only more fun for you, I think it's more fun for them. So I'm a
Yeah.
big proponent of
Yeah,
this.
and I'd love to add to this conversation because
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be gifts. Like it doesn't even have to take up financial resources, especially in the beginning. Another thing that I do is I welcome every single new Instagram follower because that's my main focal platform.
Mm.
And it's not a canned, it's like response, it's personal. And sometimes it does, like if I've been on something or whatever and it's hundreds, it will take me days to get through. But I physically welcome every single person because that is novel. There's so much follow going on. And then
Yeah.
people are kind of like, some people just are not even sure how to respond because they think it's automated. But I'm
Yeah,
like, hey,
totally.
it's really me. And sometimes it's a voice message, but Instagram's voice messaging feature is not at top par anymore. But I think that that's the thing is just asking yourself, how could I make it novel and meet myself where I'm at? From, guests on my show, I write a handwritten thank you note, to every single podcast guest. And every week I write handwritten notes to clients, even in my personal life too. And I think those
Yeah.
are things that, again, are novel. They don't cost you anything really, but the cost of the note or a stamp or whatever the case is, but they do make you memorable. And it's important to find ways to bridge that like instant connection that's a little bit deeper and seen.
Yeah. On the note of being memorable, I would love to hear some of the tips that you have for people to stand out in what seems like a very booming industry right now. So
Yeah.
what are some ways to differentiate yourself?
I mean, there's two that come to mind immediately, and going back and piggybacking off the conversation is your unique methodology, having a framework, naming it something that feels relatable to the overall purpose and mission of your business. Because when you have it, you are able to leverage it. We teach infusion in the branding with our frameworks. Like your framework should be woven in. When people come through my world, they, like you already noticed, like you can see that our methodology is clear and what our say core premise of our business is. And a lot of times we don't know that, or we think this is the misguided belief. Oh, I have to serve hundreds of people before I know what the framework is. And my rebuttal is, no, you just need somebody really good to help you figure yours out right here and now, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching that. So having a framework that is a really important way to stand out. The second thing is like letting your client results speak for themselves. And I say sprinkle them into your content like they're confetti. And they doesn't have to be, I think it's easy for, especially people in health and wellness, looks like before and after pictures. But I really like to say like paint the story of where your client came from, what the work was, and where they are now. And you could do that through a carousel post on Instagram. You could do that through a blog post. You could do that from a podcast interview. You could do that in an IG live. You could do that on a reel. You could do that on YouTube. You could do that through your newsletters. Like there's so many ways that cost $0 to be able to position yourself as an expert and just say, I am who I say I am. Because when we're starting out and we're maybe inspired by our own journey, which so many coaches are, it's great to be able to show your results. What's even better is being able to say, I can repeat this process with other human beings and get results. And now you're adding credibility and legitimacy to your work.
Yeah, 100%. So I heard you say a few different platforms where you could share this message, not should, could. So what would you say to people who are listening that heard that and were like, oh my gosh, I need to be sending newsletters multiple times a week, being on YouTube, being on Instagram, probably have a TikTok. What would you say to them?
Mm-hmm.
Also, great branding. Shout out for anyone who's not seeing this on video. She just picked up her glass and it said best damn coach on it.
Yep, it is
casual.
Perfectly placed. I have two thoughts for that. The most important is know your ideal client and where they're at. So for instance, I just had a major controversy on my social media because the threads came out. And right away I made a reel that was like, am I the only one that thinks this is like it's distracted by shiny objects? Everybody's blowing up because like threads is out. And I just was simply like, I'm not going to exert the energy. And it's not to say that it's not important for some people, but it's kind of like Clubhouse. It came out and everybody's like, woo. And then it's like crickets. And so people took all this time to learn. So my point in saying that is know your ideal client and where they're going to be. I know the majority of people I'm working with are struggling with what you just said. Where should I be? So the last thing I'm going to do is try to deflect my audience to yet another platform that they don't know how to use. And I'm not going to go there because I know my people, most people are not going to go there. And that is totally okay. So I think the most important part is study your person and know where they like to spend their time. It's really not about where you like to spend your time. It's about where they like to spend their time. And second, I just look at numbers. I mean, I'm such a proponent of pulling the emotion out of our decisions in business and just focusing on the data. And so if we look on average, if we were to, I'm just going to use Instagram again, because that's where I hang out most, because that's where my people are. If somebody sees my posts, it's roughly 1% to 3% of my followers. So if I had, 100 people, that's, tiny bit of people that are going to see my content. However, my newsletters, the average open rate is usually 25 to 35%, give or take. There's some weird, open stuff that happens in the email marketing world. So that means if I have 100 people on my email list, 25 to 35 people are going to see it. So when we talk about leveraging our time, I just simply ask myself the question, where are more people going to see the stuff that I'm putting out? And that makes the decision really easy. So to put that like in tactical ways, so if I only have an hour to work on my business per week, I'm going to write my newsletter first, and then I'm going to write my content that goes on social media second, if time, permits. And so this is how I'm always helping my new people, especially those transitioning out of maybe a 9 to 5 who are building coaching practices on the side, which so many of us do in the beginning, is we have a limited time crunch. And so where is the best bang for my buck is really the conversation. It's not emotional. It's just data driven.
Yeah, man, so many things stood out from what you just shared. First, I was having a conversation with a coach is a loose word. I don't know that he has defined how he wants to serve yet, but he's well-meaning, service-oriented in the mindset and mindfulness arena. And he said, I'm going to lean into this approach and see how it feels. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, because I was like, it might not feel great. And there might be days when it feels really bad, but what's the ROI? What's the
Mhm.
result of leaning into that new approach? And so I love that you brought in the numbers, because so much of becoming a brand new coach is based on like shiny new opportunity, big vision, willingness to serve, open heart, and maybe not as much business experience. And so it becomes really challenging trying to balance wanting to serve people and not necessarily knowing how to run a business. And this goes back to your original point of have a mentor, have a coach, have someone
Mhm.
who has done this before in the way that you hope to do it that can help you. So
Yeah.
I love that. And then, I mean, that was really paradigm shifting for me about the newsletter versus the Instagram, because even though I know what you're saying is true, I can hear the limiting beliefs around like you're supposed to be posting every day though, otherwise the algorithm, yada yada. And I know that I'm not the only one who has that wiring in place, and so I think that's really useful. Plus, I just prefer writing a newsletter. Oh, and
Yeah.
on that note, for brand new coaches who are just creating their list for the first time, your open rate might be even higher because all of these people are fresh. They're super into
Totally.
whatever it is you're putting out, and they're primed for whatever you're going to offer them. That's why they have joined your list. So the best possible time to be making an invitation into an experience with you.
Totally agree on that.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'd love to hear, what are some of the dreams that you have for your business in the next 5, 10 years? Because obviously it's a different place than it was 5 years
Yeah.
ago, and you clearly invest in your growth. So paint me a beautiful picture of where Amanda Walker's going.
Yeah, I am exclusively focusing on group coaching experiences. We have a goal of helping 1 million coaches serve 1,000 people. And
Mm.
so for me, I've spent a lot of time in one-to-one work, which is definitely a zone of genius. I love it. And I've been doing it very deeply for many years. And so it's kind of time for me to expand in other ways. And so I just do VIP days now, one-to-one, but we're putting kind of all of our eggs into supporting our group programs and just deepening that experience and really looking and asking ourselves the hard questions of like, how do we elevate it even more? And I've just really figured out specifically in the last year that if I'm serving tons of one-to-one clients, I just simply cannot bring the quality into the group environments that I desire. And so just like
Mm.
letting some things fall away to bring in that. And
Yeah.
so I see that really becoming um, I would love in the coaching world for our community to be an identity shifting phrase. Like the best damn coach is literally, I named it that because it's the identity that I hope every coach really holds on to, because I don't want to be coached by somebody that's like, well, I hope I'm a good coach. I
Yeah.
want somebody to coach me that's like, yeah, I'm the best damn coach.
Yeah.
Right. And so much, especially in the beginning of doing the work we're doing, it is shifting our identity into that future self, the one that believes with certainty she is the best damn coach. And how does she make decisions and how does she support our clients? So that's really the vision I have, is for this in the coaching world to be, um, a household identity that more coaches want to be a part of, and continue retreats, which is something that I do host each year, and truly just have a scalable model that allows me to follow my college aged kids at that point who maybe have aspirations of playing collegiate sports. So I'd love to be in my RV following them around and being able to
Yeah.
coach in group communities. We had a taste of that. We just traveled. We were out for 6 weeks in our RV, and I was like, oh, I could do this life really long term. So
Yeah. I've gotten a taste of it in the past, and I'm like, I get it. I get
yeah,
it.
totally, totally.
You just
Yep.
open the door and there's nature. I get it.
Yeah, the ocean and coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, anything that you want. Yeah, that's super beautiful. So, what would you say? Well, real quick, your conviction, your confidence reminded me of a quote from a recent interview. If anyone hasn't listened to the Juan Bandana interview, please do. And he said, your clients don't care about your certifications, they care about your conviction. So I love that you have claimed and you own this phrase, the best damn coach, because there's power in it. I mean, I feel it when I say it, right? And so I can see that vision so clearly in my mind. And I think that that's a really inspiring thing for anyone who's listening, to create your own vision. Like, what is it that you want to achieve by being a coach? Is it helping 1 million people, help 1,000 people? Is it helping all the women in your local community? Like, whatever your thing is, just start to think about it and crystallize it in your mind. So
Yes.
that was one. And then I would love to hear your thoughts on new coaches who want to immediately dive into group coaching
Mhm.
and haven't had any experience with one-on-one at the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a double-edged sword because I truly believe that you can create anything you want. And so if you are feeling called with certainty that a group coaching container is where you want to start, then I just want you to tap into the intention. Is it because you want to make the more money at this moment? Is it because you feel like you operate in a group, superior? So just tap into that. But again, just to reiterate, I do not believe in one path. And I think the most important thing is to carve your own journey along. My hesitation with that for people is that monitoring the progress of clients, even one to one, is a great skill set to develop. And if you haven't done one to one and now you're going to put 5 or 10 people in a group environment, then just make sure you feel like you have really well established boundaries and ways to monitor their progress along the way to make sure that they're getting what they came to you for in that experience. But I think truthfully, the fastest cash to make from my perspective in the coaching world is one-to-one work.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying you for proximity and accountability, essentially. And there's just so much goodness. You study their language, their physiology, you know the right cues. So I think there's so much to be learned in the one-to-one space. And I would encourage people to at least take some time to have a few of those clients, or at least consider like a hybrid model where they're doing some group, like maybe one group call or 2 group calls a month. And then outside of that, they're meeting independently so they can pick the pieces together and kind of marry that. So that's really what I have to say is I think there's value in the one-to-one, but ultimately, you just want to make sure that your people are well supported.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you brought up a really good point, which is there is no perfect path. You don't have to follow Amanda's path to a T. You don't have to follow Transformation Academy's path, Kimberly's path. Really, whatever lights you up and gets you to keep showing up for your clients, that's the perfect path for you. And just understanding that whether you go all one-on-one or all group or a hybrid, everything's data. And you're going to learn different data in those different containers. And so you can't really fail at anything. I really believe that failure is just feedback and feedback is data. So I love that. Amanda, before we wrap up, I would love to hear one final piece of like wisdom or encouragement that you have for coaches who are either new who are maybe plateauing and kind of hitting that ceiling in their business.
This one I share often because I see it as such a sabotage that exists. And that is the gap. One of the reasons that we get stuck is because there's a large gap between our expectation and reality. So if we were to graph this, if I could draw you a picture right now, imagine this X and Y axis, and our vision when we start growing a business is going to be a perfect linear journey, right? That straight line up and to the right. However, what actually happens is this very slow in the beginning, like it's almost a horizontal line. And then we start to gain some traction and we start to see this upward trend. But if you were to see, there's like this gap on a graph between these 2 lines. I call that the land of the lost. Because what happens is we're like, oh, well, I should be here already based on some random person they saw on the internet. And when they're not there, then they quit and they start over and they self-select a new strategy. Well, like I had one webinar, but only 20 people attended and 1 person converted. I'm like, yeah, do you know the stats? Like that's actually pretty freaking good. But if they don't know that stat, then they tell themselves all the people should have converted, which is not even a remote standard inside our industry. And so then they quit and they're like, well, I'm going to try challenges or I'm going to try networking, right? And so they spend a lot of time in the beginning of the business. I am guilty of this for sure. Starting over consistently and each time really actually going further and further from the destination. And so what I would encourage anybody listening to is just really ask myself, like, where are my expectations coming from? Where's the root? Where's the data? Like, have people in your corner that can give you great metrics and statistics of what's reality so that when you are, like I had this amazing client, she coaches volleyball players to how to get matched and recruited by their dream school. And she hosted her first workshop. She had 35 people sign up. That's amazing for a first time workshop.
Yeah.
And she had 2 people convert live on the offer, plus like 2 more, I think 4 or 5 people end up joining her one-to-one coaching experience. And so I'm like, hey, how did it go? And she's like, it didn't go very well. And I was like, whoa. Like, tell me more about didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Like, well, I just didn't feel, and I only had 5. I was like, pump the brakes. Like, let's go through the math, right? So we had to look at the data of the show up rate first off, which was like 20 out of 35 people.
Wow.
How many people converted? And so then I could compare those to the industry averages, which she far surpassed all of them. So, right, what we did there is we closed the gap between her expectation and the reality. So now these paths are actually, there's less room for disappointment. And I think that is just a great opportunity for us as practitioners, is to make sure we kind of put those expectations in check.
Yeah, I love that. And it's reassuring to hear that the starting over is not solely a Kim thing.
Nope, it's an Amanda thing too. That's why I'm teaching, as telling everybody if I possibly can. So hopefully they can bypass those mistakes that we've made.
Yes, and we teach what we most need to learn. So if you find that you are coaching someone on something that you might be going through again yourself, what a gift. What a gift you get to hear your own words.
Great story.
Yeah. So Amanda, where can people get more from you? Where can they follow you? And do you have anything juicy that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first off, come listen to our podcast as well, The Best Damn Coach. It's tactical, it's mindset, it's coaching mastery, all the things that we think make the best damn coach. I'm most active, like I mentioned, on Instagram. My handle there is A Walk My Way, sharing content. I love to chat with people in the DMs, so come talk with me there. Lastly, if you're looking for, a training that kind of rocks your world and makes maybe a shift on how to stand out in the industry, then you can head over to my website at amanda-walker.com/masterclass. And you can jump into a free training where I'll teach you how to stand out in, your crowded niche.
Love it. Amazing. Amanda, thank you so much for being here. We'll be sure to have all of those things linked up in the show notes, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for the connection. So thanks for having me.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, do me a favor, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button on whatever podcast application you are currently using, and leave us a review. We love hearing from you. I'm also really excited because today we are announcing our first winner in our monthly raffle for reviews for free certification. So if your handle on the Apple podcast application is backwards hat girl, you, my friend, are a lucky winner. So do me a favor and email contact@transformationacademy.com. We will do what we can to confirm your identity, and we'll get you hooked up with your first free certification from the TA library. If you want to get more information about today's episode, then head to theprofitablecoachpodcast.com/007, where you can get all the details about how to connect further with Amanda and more info on what it is that we chatted about in today's show. Thanks again for listening. Looking forward to connecting with you guys next week.